Coming up, the Brewers and Reds get gems from their starters. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome, and you're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. Local experts join us, and they recap all of the action for you from yesterday across Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Kanani Stevens. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Brewers veteran Christian Yelich hit a 3-run home run, and Corbin Burns allowed just 2 hits in 8 innings, getting the Brewers a shutout win over the Phillies on Thursday. Our Locked On hosts with both teams go over a shutdown win for Milwaukee.
Hi, everybody. Chuck Freeman here with Locked On Brewers. We'll be coming up with an episode later on tonight. I guess we're all good with Corbin Burns. Another solid outing, going 8 strong against the Phillies in a 4-0 win. Burnsy was throwing strikes, looking good. Can't trade this guy. I know some of you guys wanted to trade the guy, and we're done with him. But man, he's motivated. And he's at a great level, at a great spot right now. How about Uribe in the 9th inning? Walks the leadoff guy, strikes out the rest, and then how about getting Bryce Harper? Getting Bryce Harper, who goes out there no gloves. Cocky Bryce Harper, after that stunt he pulled against Milner the night before, gets Harper out on strikes, and the Brewers take 2 or 3. Huge series with the Braves coming up. We're going to talk to Reviewing the Brews, Matt Carroll, coming up on the show. We'll talk about that coming up next here. Locked On Brewers drop later on tonight, everybody.
Well, there you have it. The Philadelphia Phillies lose today's game and lose the series to the Milwaukee Brewers. Connor Thomas, your host of Locked On Phillies. And today, man, you got to tip your cap to Corbin Burns. He was a really, really, really good pitcher today who put out there a really good start. I know you gave up a couple runs early, but still, I don't think there was any way you were beating Corbin Burns today. Sometimes you got to tip your cap. But what today's loss makes you think about? Well, a couple things. First of all, Derek Hall, again, I know Corbin Burns, like I just said, had a great start, but Derek Hall has been doing nothing for this team. How long can he continue to play first base? And also, last night's loss in a very winnable game now seems a lot bigger. It's a game they should have had, and this is why you didn't want this game to decide the series. But Phillies are back at it again. We'll see the Guardians coming up, and I'll talk to you about it on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.
The Reds' Andrew Abbott allowed just 1 hit in his 8 innings of work on the mound, beating the Giants to keep pace with the Brewers in their division. Locked On Reds recaps the win over San Francisco.
If you look up the word dominant in the dictionary, Andrew Abbott's going to be right there next to it. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast. 8 innings, no runs, 3 base runners total. Beautiful day at the ballpark for Abbott as he just dominated, shut down. The Giants couldn't do anything against him for those 8 innings. And then the Reds scored 5 runs on top of that. Bottom of the lineup was all over the place. Absolutely loved to see them hit the ball the way they did. Will Benson, Luke Maile with 3 hits on the day. Can you say #2 catchers? Because I can. But yeah, it's all about Abbott because that was an absolutely beautiful performance. Really wish Derek Law would have preserved the shutout, but Wilmer Flores is just going to do what Wilmer Flores has done this entire series. Very happy to see him leave the ballpark. Can't wait to see what the Reds have in store for the Arizona Diamondbacks this weekend.
The Blue Jays shut out the Padres, and the Home Run Derby champ went deep for Toronto in the win. Our Locked On hosts check in with everything after the game.
Not the ending we would have liked, but if anyone familiar with this team this year knows, this team never gives us the ending we would have liked. What's up, everybody? Javier Reyes here of Locked On Padres. The Padres lose the last game of a 3-game set against the Blue Jays 4-0. But still, they did win 2 out of 3 games, so that is the positive thing, thanks to great starts from Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove. And Blake Snell today, I had a little reverse jinx bit that I do on Twitter, and it worked. He goes 5 innings, only allows 1 run. He did walk like 7 batters, though, which was unfortunate. So, he didn't have the best start. It was his quote-unquote regression start, I guess. You know what I mean? He's walked 7 guys. Good defense helping out a little bit, too. The ball just not getting through the infield. So that was nice. But even still, the Padres, unable to score, left plenty of men on base. There was one moment later on in the game, 1st and 2nd, nobody out. Manny Machado up, who has been on fire. Strikes out, and then a grounded double play by Xander Bogaerts. That encapsulates the season very, very well. Luis Garcia giving up a solo home run. Then a 2-run shot given up by Cosgrove puts the game fully out of reach. It's a really frustrating game every time the Padres look like they might like get on a roll, they do stuff like this, right? And it's really frustrating to leave that many guys on base. And I don't know. But again, if you're still like hoping for this team to suddenly live up to its potential, I just feel like we've been shown time and time again that that's not really going to happen as currently constituted. So we'll see how it pans out over the rest of the season, and we'll see how Campuzano does. The Campuzano Hive, we're alive. We're on life support. But maybe Campuzano could do a little bit something as time goes on. But until next time, guys, of course, stay faithful.
The Orioles and Rays entered their series tied for the AL East lead, and the Orioles needed extra innings, but they officially now have a one-game lead in the division. Locked On Local experts go over everything after the game.
What a win. What a win for the Baltimore Orioles on Thursday night. O's win it 4-3 in 10 innings over the Rays and have taken over sole possession of first place in the AL East. Connor Newcomb here, host of Locked On Orioles. Let's start with Kyle Gibson. He was awesome. 19 whiffs, pitched his way into the 7th inning. Yeah, he got hit by a couple earned runs in that 7th, but he was incredible, amazing, everything and more the Orioles needed him to be when they brought him in this offseason. And then the O's just did it when they needed to do it. They felt like the team in this game that's been there before. Not the Rays, who have been to the World Series recently, who continuously go to the playoffs. It was the Orioles who didn't make mistakes. It was the Orioles who made the big defensive plays. It was the Orioles who got the run home in the 10th inning, and they win it 4-3. What a game. I'll recap it all coming up on Friday's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
Coming up, the Braves and Diamondbacks score a bunch of runs in the late innings. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. The same thing goes with your vehicle. For parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for that green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit, ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. The Cardinals jumped on Marcus Stroman early, and they beat the Cubs in Wrigley. Our Locked On hosts have more as St. Louis takes the first meeting between the teams since they played in London.
Steven Matz gets his first win of the season as the Cardinals top the Cubs at Wrigley. Hey, it's JD from Locked On Cardinals, and the Redbirds are rolling, baby. They take down the Cubs 7-2 behind a solid performance by Steven Matz. You heard me right. A solid performance by Steven Matz. The guy was 0-7 coming into the game and hadn't won a game since last September. Toss it out. The streak is over. He allows just one run over 5 strong innings. Wilson Contreras, Villain Willie, sets the tone in this one. With the RBI double in the first inning, you get home runs from Jordan Walker and Paul DeJong. That's 6 wins in a row. Winners of 9 of their last 11. But the Cardinals, they're still sellers at the trade deadline, right? Right? For the latest updates and info, be sure to keep it Locked On Cardinals.
Cubs get crushed by the rival Cardinals 7-2 on Thursday night, continuing their diminishing hopes of being relevant past the trade deadline. Marcus Stroman was bad. The second bad start he's had against St. Louis this year. He did not get much help as Patrick Wisdom was pretty rough on defense today. He made 2 errors, and the Cubs really didn't do much at all against Steven Matz. Even the one run they scored was off of a ball that got lost in the lights. So it was a pretty rough performance. Bad defense, bad starting pitching, bad hitting. Put that together, and it's usually not a very close game. So Cubs will have to bounce back, but it doesn't look great right now. The Cardinals are hot, and they took it to the Cubs Thursday evening.
The White Sox faced off and beat former Chicago starter Jose Quintana in his debut for the Mets. Our Locked On White Sox host has more after that win.
The Chicago White Sox beat the New York Mets 6-2 Thursday afternoon in New York. Hey, I'm Nick Borowski from Locked On White Sox. The Chicago White Sox avoided the sweep, beat the Mets, and Michael Kopech was the starter for the Sox, and he bounced back from just a disastrous outing his last time around in Atlanta. Kopech was able to go 5 and change in New York, just 1 earned run. Again, not an amazing outing, but nice to see after what happened to him in Atlanta last week. Sox had 6 runs, did not hit a home run, but were able to manufacture 4 for 9 with runners in scoring position. Sox are now 16 games under 500. Up next is the Minnesota Twins in Minnesota. Lance Lynn is on the hill for the Sox for game one. For more, check out the Locked On White Sox podcast.
The Astros went into last night hoping to gain some ground against the bottom feeders in the AL West. Our Locked On hosts have the details of how things finished up in Oakland.
Hey, the Racetown Whalehouse here with Locked On Astros, and the Astros win in Oakland. Hogan Harris has looked like a Cy Young against them in the 2 starts that he's had against the Astros. But once he left the game, the Astros started producing runs. It's a good thing because J.P. France threw his 8th quality start in 13 starts. The young rookie is doing phenomenal this year. 5 strikeouts over 6 innings pitched, only 1 earned run. Kyle Tucker had 2 RBI today. Alex Bregman was 1 for 4 with the home run, and that was all they needed. Ryan Presley would come in and get his 99th career save, 1 more save, and he finds himself in elite company. There's only 3 other pitchers that we talk about that have 100 saves. Also, what's this talk about Chicago White Sox and the Astros talking trade? Go check out the latest episode of Locked On Astros. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us get to 8,000. And remember, we're your team every day. Go Stros.
A 0-0 tie in the 6th turned into 12 combined runs by the time the Braves held off the Diamondbacks on Thursday for a win. Locked On Diamondbacks has more after Arizona's loss.
It looked like the D-backs were going to sweep the best team in baseball, but unfortunately, Miguel Castro ended those dreams. Miller Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks here. We got a really strong Zach Gallen performance in the series finale. He pitched into the 7th inning, which was really nice because Zach Gallen has been struggling a little bit recently, but the guy who is arguably the favorite for the Cy Young Award bounced back in a big way against the Atlanta Braves, looked really strong over 7 innings. The D-backs offense came alive as well once again. 5 runs on the board, courtesy of a big home run by Dominic Canzone. But in the 8th inning, Miguel Castro did what he did last time against the Atlanta Braves in the series finale. Because if you remember, the D-backs should have beat the Braves the first time these two teams played each other. But Miguel Castro, with 2 outs in the 9th, gave up a grand slam in the first series. What happened in tonight's finale? Miguel Castro gives up another 3-run shot in the 8th inning. Braves take the lead, and they never look back. A really demoralizing series finale loss, but the D-backs still take the series after scuffling recently, so you'll take that. And then next up, you got to play the red-hot Cincinnati Reds. Yeah, it's a tough schedule for the D-backs, but when you're on the best teams in baseball, you're not worried about who's on your schedule.
That's it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB. As always, we thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. We're in the second half of the MLB season now, so make sure that you are subscribed to both Locked On MLB and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else to get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.